Now let's start the news. The Akufo-Addo-led government says it has succeeded in realigning the Ghanaian economy from one that is always focused on taxation to one focused on production, adding that no new taxes would be introduced in the coming year, and though there will be a review of some of the existing ones. Presenting a 2020 budget statement to Parliament, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, cited a chain of taxes struck out by government since 2017, and he says he has directly or indirectly put an amount of some 12.2 billion Ghana cedis into the pockets of ordinary Ghanaians. They include a reduction in import duties by some 50% from April 2019, the abolition of the 1% special import levy, and the scrapping of excise duty on petroleum products, and also the reduction in electricity tariffs.
The intervention by government to save depositors and investors whose funds were locked up with failed financial institutions has been very costly. In 2017 and 2018, government spent 11.7 billion to safeguard the deposits held by universal banks that were resolved by Bank of Ghana and to set up the Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited. These amounts were mainly through the issuance of government debt to both GCB Bank and CBG. This year, government had to again intervene to provide relief to depositors when the Bank of Ghana revoked the license of 347 microfinance institutions, 15 savings and loans, and 8 finance houses. The total bailout cost estimate for this exercise was 2.4 billion. Increased economic growth has been the result of increased agricultural and industrial output. As a result of the successful Planting for Food and Jobs program, agricultural GDP growth has increased from 2.9% in 2016 to 4.8% in 2018 and projected to reach 6.4% in 2019. It is heartening to note that unlike in the past, Ghana has not had to import maize for food consumption in the last 2 years. Industry has also seen a recovery, with industry growth increasing from 4.3% in 2016 to 10.6% in 2018 and projected to grow to 8.8% in 2019. This, Mr. Speaker, is real change.
Mr. Ofori-Atta also assured the government will not overspend in the election year, as has happened in the past.
2020 is an election year. I would like to take this opportunity to inform this August House on behalf of the President that all the needed resources required shall be marshaled for the Electoral Commission to ensure that we have credible, free, and fair elections. Ghana remains one of the most stable and peaceful countries in the world, and we intend to maintain it. In spite of the year being an election year, Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that President Akufo-Addo and his government will ensure that the perennial excessive spending during such periods will not happen in 2020. We shall work within the 2020 appropriated resource envelope and adhere to the Fiscal Responsibility Act to maintain fiscal discipline. We will do so not because we are complacent of our chances. No, we will do so because the nation needs it, and we are not prepared to throw away all the sacrifices and gains the people and their government have made in the last 3 years. We shall consolidate our macroeconomic gains and offer businesses and households the predictability and stability that they need to manage their lives. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has developed an integrated institutional framework for the implementation of SDGs from the national to the sub.
Now, government has revealed plans to provide accommodation for headquarters or Kayaye in various parts of Accra. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta said in the 2020 budget statement in Parliament on Wednesday, the construction of the hostel will begin in December 2019 at Abubulushi, a suburb of Accra. Now, he announced that preparations are now complete and that the construction of the first 600-bed Kayaye hostel will commence in Abubulushi next month to provide accommodation and skills training to these vulnerable young women. Now, we've been seeking the views of some porters here in Accra.
Oh, I It is good news, but we have no idea about the cost of rent. If it is very expensive, we cannot afford. We will appeal to government to fulfill this promise.
We are
excited about the project because we always sleep on the streets. There is no Kayaye who wouldn't be excited about getting an accommodation. We are happy about government providing accommodation for us. If it is moderate, we will pay. But if it's expensive, it will be a challenge.
The special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, on Wednesday clashed in court with the Deputy Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, over a judgment debt he says was undeserved, which he has been fighting to retrieve from the state. Mr. Amidu, who successfully challenged the €47 million payment to Waterfield Holding all the way to the Supreme Court, has expressed frustration that the Attorney General doesn't appear serious about retrieving the money and went to the Supreme Court again to get it to compel the Attorney General to act. The Deputy AG, however, challenged claims by the special prosecutor that the state was not pursuing the money, stating that Mr. Amidu had no right to suggest his office was not working on the matter. The Supreme Court eventually dismissed the special prosecutor's case as incompetent. Court correspondent Joseph Akable, however, reports that things also got quite heated between the Deputy AG and the special prosecutor during the court proceedings.
The Supreme Court had earlier urged Mr. Amidu to cooperate with the AG's office. Mr. Amidu proceeded to submit the AG's office documents he maintains could assist the office to enforce the court's order. When the court presided over by Justice Bafo Boni called the case on Wednesday, the Deputy AG was the first to speak. He expressed concerns over the documents Mr. Amidu had filed. He said while they don't help the issue of retrieval substantively, he didn't think it ought to have been filed as though it was a written address to the court. The panel hearing the case, however, responded to the Deputy AG that the cooperation it called for could take various forms and what had been presented by Mr. Amidu satisfies the court. Mr. Dame then proceeded to urge the court to dismiss the case filed by the special prosecutor since it was incompetent. Martin Amidu, however, explained that he filed the case because he wanted the orders of the court to be enforced. The Deputy AG rebutted that the special prosecutor was creating the impression that the AG's office was not bent on retrieving the money. He also stated that is why Martin Amidu leaked the documents he submitted to the AG's office to the press. Martin Amidu took offense as he remarked that he wasn't a publisher and cannot be held responsible for the publications in the press. Mr. Yeboah-Dame rebutted that the special prosecutor indeed told the press that the AG's office wasn't working to retrieve the money. He maintained the special prosecutor said this in an interview on an online program dubbed Time with David. He urged the court to rule on his request that the application is incompetent. The special prosecutor reacted once again that he doesn't like it when he is tagged as someone who tells lies. He added that the court's decision could well affect the desire of citizens to expend their limited resources to ensure that the laws of the state are respected. The panel raised concerns about instances where lawyers speak to the press while their cases are pending. It urged the lawyers to desist from such practices. The court dismissed the application filed by Mr. Amidu, describing it as incompetent. Deputy AG reacted to the ruling in open court by saying he was going to call the special prosecutor to cooperate with him. Mr. Amidu was at this point walking away from the seat reserved for lawyers and remarked that, quote, "If you don't respect me, you can't come to me," end quote. He took his seat in the public gallery and could be heard saying, quote, "My son is even older than you. You don't respect," end quote, as he pointed towards the Deputy AG. The Attorney General's office, JoyNews, is learning intends to work with a special prosecutor to retrieve the money from Waterville.
Once you can grant a thousand interview, as far as I'm concerned, once it's on the record that it should enforce the judgment, we have achieved what we want.
Ghana courts on Wednesday failed to function as a result of a nationwide strike declared by members of the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, JUSAG. Now, at the Techiman Court, the Circuit Court, people with criminal and civil cases scheduled to appear before the courts were left stranded as the intended strike rendered the judge and other non-JUSAG members locked and unable to attend to over 33 cases scheduled for the day. JoyNews' Anas Sabit visited the court and filed this report.
The Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, JUSAG, on Tuesday, November 12, declared an intended strike action with regards to salaries of their staff, and this has taken a toll on the courts across the country. This morning we are here at the Techiman Circuit Court, where we are interacting with the public or people who have been scheduled to appear before the court this morning. A couple of them traveled all the way from Yeji, Kwame, Danso, Atebu, which is within the eastern part of the Bono East region, and with no knowledge of the intended strike, they are here, and the court is not available to sit on their cases. This has become a sort of worry for most of them who are stranded within the court premises.
A defective bridge in Tanoso in the Ashanti region has cut 3 communities off from the rest of the main municipality, and this is amid fears of a disaster waiting to happen to the residents of the area. The residents of Tanoso, Trepa and Puku Krom say the structure has so far become a death trap after portions had been washed away during recent floods. The work is set to begin on the rehabilitation of the road. Residents and other road users will have to wait for an extra 18 months to get over their plight if it is completed on schedule, that is. And the development leaves a narrow stretch which could not contain more than just a vehicle at a time. Nana Sensu Mensah visited the area to have a picture for himself.
A narrow stretch of the bridge left by floodwater hardly can contain more than 1 vehicle passing at any moment. There were some works on the Patrapa Pokukrom Road in 2007, but the project was abandoned after the drains were done.
What you see behind me here looks like a bridge, but hey, it's a death trap.
This bridge is the only link for residents and other road users who move in and out of these communities from the main Abuakwa-Sofuline highway.
This route connects to the main routes, and we have to struggle. Even if you don't get a taxi, you have to struggle to get to the bus stop for you to get to town or get to your destination or something. And you know, it's very, very dusty, as you can see, very, very dusty. And when it rains too, it's very deplorable. And we have a bridge just over there, and it's being degraded and it's being broken down. So I'm hoping they could fix that bridge.
When it rains, we cannot use the road. The nature of the road always spoils our cars. I will need to take my car to the workshop tomorrow. We are pleading on government to fix the road.
With yet another short cutting for resumption of work on the 5.5-kilometer stretch, residents of affected communities can be hopeful. They will, however, have to live with their fears for another 1.5 years to see an end to their plight. Dr. Samiu Kojonyama is Member of Parliament for Kwadaso.
In all, we are doing about 1.2 Tanaso. We are doing 2 kilometers of more in Asuyabua. We are doing another one in Kwadaso. So it's about 5.4 kilometers in total. That is the project that has been given to us for now. But there's so many in the pipeline that is coming. So it's a holistic kind of project that we've managed to bring it down to the constituents. The engineer mentioned it's estimated to complete by within 1.5 years, 18 months period. That is how far they're giving to us. And I'm hopeful that by the end of the period, we may have finished and we may finish way before the time.
For Joy News, Nana Asensu Mensah, Kumasi.
In our last story, Chief of Staff Akosua Fremose Opare is canvassing support for more girls and women to be given extra opportunities in the pursuit of digital communication in the country. According to her, giving girls and women who constitute a greater number of the country's population a special treat is in acquisition of digital skills. Will help reduce poverty and empower them to be independent. The Chief of Staff was speaking at the National Girls in ICT Day at the University of Cape Coast. Richard Kojinyakun was there. He has more.
Close to 1,000 girls selected from 14 districts in the Central Region have benefited from training organized by the Ministry of Communications in coding and basic IT skills. Chief of Staff Akosua Frema Osayopari indicated government desire in bridging the digital gap that exists in the country. According to her, the 2010 Housing and Population Census identified a huge gap in access, affordability, and the use of information and communication technology among the sexes in Ghana. And it is one of the bases the Ministry of Communication, in conjunction with the National Communication Authority and other IT firms, is rolling out programs with girls and women in focus.
The digital world needs to benefit all of us, regardless of status, gender, and location. Creating our digital economy requires intensive skill-based training, attitudinal change, and discarding the old traditional beliefs that ICTs are not for females. I think we've been told how well positioned, even biologically, we are in terms of our capacity to take challenging works.
Minister for Communications, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, whose ministry is spearheading the program, called for an end in the stereotyping of girls and women on ICT. To her, the sector is opened up and diverse opportunities abound.
This sector holds enormous opportunities for women with the requisite skills. However, stereotyping and discrimination continues to deprive girls of the opportunity to excel in this field. Misconceptions such as ICT requires those who have excellent mathematical skills. Programming is logical and sterile. People who work in ICT are colo and they don't have a social life, etc. Put the girls off, exacerbating the gender digital divide that we're working to eradicate as quickly as possible.
Celebrated female sensation DJ Switch entertained the girls and encouraged them to push harder to get to greater heights. Richard Kwejenyakon, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Right, that's where we drop the lid on today's news headlines, but most certainly not on the show. There's so much more to come, starting with the newspaper headlines, and later, today is World Diabetes Day. It's a day to educate on how to prevent or treat diabetes, and we'll be talking a bit more about that while we receive a check from the Pop Chain team for the sugar project, the Joy Sugar Project. All that is to come. Stay with us.